You're listening to the Into the Woods podcast with your hosts, Dermot and Michael. Let's get into it.
Wonderful chase by Shaw.
Cox again. I cannot believe it. Daicos nearly runs out of room. He's goal! Jamie Elliott has won the game of footy for this famous club. Slap for Nick Daicos. He's going to be the hero. The little champ is going to pick the winner.
Here's the Nigoe moment. He unloads. Bang! You need your stars. And Collingwood stars just went and wrenched the cup back.
If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. For Spotify and Apple listeners, a 5-star rating would be greatly appreciated. Make sure you hit the bell icon on any of those platforms to be notified as soon as new episodes are released. You can find us on X at Into the Woods Pod and on Instagram at Into the Woods Pod 10. Thanks for your ongoing support by helping the podcast grow. Go Pies! Welcome to Into the Woods. I'm your host Dermot, and for the next hour or so, we'll be talking about all things Collingwood. Once again, I'm joined by Michael. How are you, Mick?
Good, thank you. Exciting times. Toby Green has lifted the embargo on fat shaming, which I'm very excited about. I'm going to go.
That was funny, especially directed at Tom Papley of all people. I didn't watch that game. Did you see the what happened after he said that at halftime? The half that Papley had.
No,
I think he had about 3 touches in the second half, Papley.
Oh, yeah. But, in fairness to him, the ball didn't really come down there too much in the second half. But, it's great. Daughter, you remember I fat shamed 20 kg off you? Remember that? That 5-6 years ago?
This is private. And it had nothing to do with you. You honestly, you always think that it had something to do with you. I put on a bit of weight 10 years ago. I lost the weight. Michael takes credit. When I was younger, I used to smoke. I gave up smoking. Michael takes credit. Hey, you actually had nothing to do with that. I didn't live with you. I didn't really talk to you a lot of that time. I was a young, rebellious teenager that wanted nothing to do with you, and you still take credit.
Who was the one standing outside your lounge room window in the pouring rain, and I wouldn't leave until you came out for a walk with me? Who was it?
You did that once, but all right. Anyway, let's move away from my personal life, Michael. And I want to apologise to our listeners. This is a little bit more late than usual. I was, of course, in Melbourne for the weekend to watch the game, and to show my commitment to this podcast, I literally walked through the doors 14 minutes ago. 14 minutes ago, I walked through the doors, and the first thing I do is set up my laptop to record this podcast. It's about, what is it? It's nearly 8 p.m. on Monday night. It's probably the latest we've done this regular episode, and I'm exhausted. But I'm happy to be here to talk to you about all things Collingwood, and even you're showing a bit of commitment because you've done a bit of travelling today. You've just been on the roads, driven up to the lovely area of Launceston for a nice sunny holiday. You're in your hotel room right now.
Not Vienna in the 17th century, I can tell you that right now. But Dermot, so let me get this straight. You start by apologising to the viewers and listeners that were late in presenting this, but then go straight to how good you are.
Well, it could have been even later. 8 p.m. You've been on a flight for however many hours, all the way from Hobart, from Melbourne to Hobart.
Well, instead of talking about how good you are, let's get into how good people like Nick Daicos was.
Let's not forget. It takes an hour for me to drive from the airport to my house as well. So, all right. Anyway, let's get into all the hot topics.
We've listened to the wisdom of Sir Winston Churchill and the brilliance of genius Albert Einstein. In the 60s, we heard the great JFK. Now, all the great minds are talking footy.
All right, so we're going to do things a little bit differently tonight, Mick. And we spoke about this on the phone yesterday, and honestly, yesterday's game, it's almost the most irrelevant game that we've been a part of for a couple of years, I would say, in terms of there's just you couldn't really take anything out of it. Like we didn't smash them, which was unfortunate. But we won the game and we won the. It's not like we just fell over the line by a goal. It was a 6-goal win, and there weren't really a lot of talking points. So we will talk about this game for a good 5 to 10 minutes, and show the players the respect that they deserve, the guys that did perform. But then I want to move on, and I really want to dig into the VFL and Serg's VFL report. And I know you've got a little bit to say about it because you were lucky enough to watch it on TV as well. And I also want to do a bit of a preview of the last month of the year and what we can look forward to and what things we might have to worry about. And then especially talk about Brisbane. We don't normally preview games, but we'll talk a little bit about Brisbane. But before we do that, we will touch on yesterday's game very quickly. And let's start with Nick Daicos. It sounded like you wanted to talk about him. I'll let you start because normally it's me that goes on about Nick.
Well, like I said, I'd rather talk about him than how long it takes for you to drive from one point to another. But
can I just say, when you're on the plane from a Melbourne to Hobart trip, right? And it's 1 hour. Right. And you're sitting there. And you need to pee, and you stand up, and you look around. You're trapped from both sides because one side there's people with the big trolleys giving people food and drinks, and the other side, because I'm in the middle of a plane, once again, people giving food and drink in their trolleys. I can't go to the toilet. It's a 1 hour freaking plane ride. Why do people need to eat and drink in that 1 hour? Get out of my way. I need to pee. Okay. Sorry, this is fresh. This only happened about an hour or so ago, so it's still fresh. But anyway, go on. Talk about Nick.
So we can talk about Nick now rather than a formerly obese man needing to urinate. Okay, we'll talk about Nick and the game. The game itself, the Pies are really just pacing themselves now, aren't they? Which is good. They're just building for the finals. I don't think they want to be playing their best footy now. So they're really just pacing themselves, hopefully nicely. It's hard though to know what to take out of the games because we're not in the club. We don't really know what they're wanting to achieve. Yesterday, it looked like they were primarily it's a 4 points. They want to bank the win. Maybe they're trying a few things. It pretty much panned out the way I thought. I think last week I said they'd win by what did I say in the end? 35 points or 30. Yeah, that pretty much panned out as expected.
But is it not frustrating? Like, are we just trying to get through, or are we playing like shit? It's as simple as that. Like,
it's hard to know unless you're in the club. You'd be hard. You don't know what the goals are.
Well, did you hear? Sorry to interrupt. Did you hear? Darcy Moore said to Fox Footy, and then Fly confirmed in his press conference that in the last 2 to 3 weeks we have been going through a heavy training load.
No, I didn't hear that, but it doesn't surprise me. I think I raised that as a possibility.
Well, Jared Wade said because we've got a few short breaks coming up in the next few rounds that we're not going to be training a lot then, so we wanted to condition and right for that. So it could explain a few things. When I heard that, I will admit I did feel a little bit better, considering the last 3 or so weeks have been disappointing, and that's kind of when the heavy training load started. So, but yeah, sorry, keep on going.
Well, I was just going to say, I could see some signs of this in the Gold Coast game. I kind of came away from that thinking they didn't really look totally invested into that game. The selection table told you that. The first half told you that. So, I think they're just building. It's a situation we just have to put our trust in them, that they know what they're doing. Don't be too critical of them. I think they're really wanting to be up and going comes finals. So, I'm pretty confident that's the case.
Well, I was very nervous around about this time in 2023. We dropped those games against Carlton and then the next week the Hawks, and that was a really bad loss. And I started to think, Jesus, like, have we peaked too early? And then come finals, we'll fine again. So I am concerned to a certain degree, and I'll run through why later when we preview the rest of the home and away season. But in terms of are we cooked? No, I don't think we are. Despite what I was saying to you at halftime on the phone, I was very emotional then. I just wanted to go to the game and watch us win by 100 points, the way that Geelong did to North Melbourne the night before. Like, why can't we beat our team? We never are. We didn't do it to the Eagles.
I don't think Chris Scott I don't reckon we'll want a lot more, many more of those type of games between now and finals.
Well, they're going to get them because they're draw. They shouldn't drop another game for the year.
But that they're not the type of games you want leading into a final series. These easy kills. So he's not going to want too many more of those 100-point wins. I can guarantee you that. He'd be better off having the type of win we had.
Well,
One where you had to kind of work for 3.5 quarters just to make sure you're going to be comfortable. Yeah, they're not great. The 100-point wins in the last month of the year.
I think you got sidetracked because you were going to talk about Nick Daicos, and I don't think you really have.
Well,
how fucking good is he? Like,
right.
like honestly, being there, it was a hard game to watch, and I'm not gonna lie, you'll be proud, Michael. I wasn't actually that emotional. I wasn't going off. I was just sulking. I was sitting there with my arms crossed the whole time, sulking. But the times I was happy at the game was when Nick Daicos had the ball, and when Nick Daicos was kicking goals, because my partner, ring, ring, ring.
Boom, boom.
She turned to me and I can't remember word for word, but she made a comment that he just is so much more composed than anyone else on the field. Both Collingwood and Richmond players. He's just and they were difficult conditions. And so many of our gun midfield players, I talk of Sidebottom and Crisp, and even Josh to a certain degree, Ned Long and Mitchell, they were sloppy. But Nick wasn't. It was like a dry day for Nick, and he was just outstanding. And he was good. He was really good around goals, which is what you've been criticising him about this year.
Yeah, he was good. And I liked, and I called for it a couple of weeks ago. I wanted him and Josh to be rotating halfback and on the ball, and they've done it. And with time and space, he can use his fantastic disposal. He can fully utilise his biggest weapon.
You were 100% right in that, and I don't say that very often to you. I was a little bit unsure because I thought he sort of moved past the halfback role, and I thought he was just going to be a pure inside mid, inside and out, and then maybe rest forward. But yeah, I think the role that he's playing at the moment, I don't think he's ever played this role, is the halfback midfield split. So you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Because he was only a pure halfback flanker, then he was a pure midfielder. He's never switched between the two. And yeah, him and Josh to a lesser degree have been doing that. So I think Nick had the 13 CBAs and Josh had the 4. But yeah, they'll both been at the game. I'll be looking in the middle, be like, where's Nick? And I look down, oh, there he is at halfback again. Then the next CBA, I look, oh, Nick's back in the midfield. The next CBA, halfback. So I really like the split. I think the more you can get Nick and Josh into the game, the better. And that was a good call by you.
Yes, thank you. And of course, he wasn't heavily tagged in this game, but in the instance that he is heavily tagged, it makes it difficult for a tagger. That he's going back to halfback, it's just he can lose him in transition. So rather than just sitting in the inside mid and having a guy hang off you, throw him to halfback flank, throw him to full forward. I heard him say during the week, somebody interviewed him and they talked about when he liked to play. And basically he said on ball and full forward.
Yeah, that was the club's YouTube video.
Was it?
Yeah, I saw it yesterday. Yeah,
he'd be great coming out of the square.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen too often, I wouldn't think. But yeah, it's another option.
Your hotel Wi-Fi is shocking, mate. Your voice isn't cutting out, which is the main thing, but you do freeze occasionally. You had a really weird little look on your face. It looked like you were winking at the camera for a good minute.
Well, getting on a bit. It could be a stroke. Who knows?
Did you see the stat? You probably did because it's been going around social media today about the 40-plus disposal and 3+ goal club.
I did see so. I saw a picture of him, Nick, Lee Matthews,
Gary Ablett Jr.
Gary Ablett Jr., yes.
So for the listeners that haven't seen it, Lee Matthews, 40-plus disposals and 3+ goals. He did that twice in his career, and some regard him. What's that?
But he actually kicked. I think he kicked 11 goals.
Yes. But regardless, only twice in his career did he have 40-plus disposals and 3+ goals. And some people regard him as the greatest of all time. And Gary Ablett Jr. Has done it 3 times, and a lot of people regard him as the greatest modern-day player of all time. How many times has Nick Daicos done it at 22 years of age?
Well, I remember the Adelaide game at at the Adelaide Oval where he had 40 and kicked 3, or had more than 40, probably 42.
I think that might have been his first year.
Yeah, I think it was. I remember that game. I would say this is the second time he's done it.
It's the second time he's done it. So he's already, at 22 years of age, he's already equaled Lee Matthews, who, like I just said, some regards the greatest ever player, and Gary Ablett Jr. has only done it one more time. And all of our listeners would have seen Gary Ablett Jr. I don't think anyone that's listening to this would be too young to remember him. So where's he going to end up by the end of his career? He's a remarkable player. Like,
Well,
I've said over and over again, I think he will end up being the greatest player of all time.
Well, I think I said a few months ago that I'm not sure he'll be in the handful. Like, how do you know? How can you judge a greatest player of all time? We haven't seen all the great players. Like, you and I never saw Des Fothergill or those guys. So how do we know? But what I did say is I think he'll end up having played the most great games of all the great players. He will have played the most, because I can see he'd be the type of Pendlebury guy. He's still going to be playing at 35, 36.
If no injuries, yeah.
Touch wood, given injuries. And he played great footy from day one. Whereas a guy like Gary Ablett Jr., as we know, he got off to a slow start in his first 2 or 3 years. He had to be confronted by his teammates to extract a finger, because he just wasn't playing well. So I think at the end of Nick's career, he will have played the most great games of anybody.
Now, I know you say that you don't care about Brownlow medals.
No.
Which I do. Maybe not as much as Carlton supporters, but I do. Because I just want Nick to keep on winning them, as well as us winning premierships, just to piss the rest of the competition off as well. I would hate that. But I think he's going to win it this year. I hope he does. If he doesn't, then that's just robbery, because like all the other guns in the comp, like Bonds, Cripps, Neil, they're not having Brownlow years. So that means someone would come from the clouds, like a Noah Anderson or a Bailey Smith or a Jordan Dawson. Someone that's only just had their first great year would come from the clouds, and poor old Nick would miss out again. That would be awful. But I think he'll win it this year. But the question for you, could Nick be the first player to win 4 Brownlows?
Well, he could, because he's young enough, and he's been unlucky not to have at least won one so far. That might come back to haunt him. Well, if you call it haunting, not getting 4 Brownlows, he might only end up with 2 or 3, but only. But yeah, he's very unlucky not to have won one already. But
did you see what Jay Clark said on First Crack about him, about his Brownlow heartbreak, which is true? Like I think he was leading the Brownlow in 23 going into the last round, and then dropped the lead because he missed those last 3 games due to the James Blank, that nobody from Hawthorn, smashing into his knee and not getting a suspension, which was disgraceful. So he missed out because of that spud. And then the next year, he broke the record. Nick Daicos, 38 Brownlow roads. He broke the record. Unfortunately, Cripps also broke the record. So he could easily have won 3 Brownlows in his first 4 years if he had a little bit of luck.
Yeah, and I think you're a bit tough on Dawson and Anderson as far as coming from the clouds. This isn't their first good year.
No. And well, if you remember my top 50 players I did at the start of the year, I actually had Jordan Dawson top 10. So I've always rated him. I mean, first year of really being in Brownlow contention, which it is. It's as simple as that. But anyway, let's just quickly get through the rest of this game. We could talk about Nick Daicos or not, but we'll get through the rest because there wasn't a lot to talk about. And we'll touch on this a little bit later in the votes. But there was, honestly, other than Nick Daicos, I mean, there was only one more player that I would say played a really good game for us. And that was Isaac Quainer. A 4-quarter effort, as solid as you like down in defence. Is he back to his 22-23 form? I'd say he's still a little bit off it. But overall, he's having a really solid and underrated season. And he's a very important part to what we're going to do in September. He's intercepting again. He's run and carry. His meters gained are up. He's just looking as solid as a rock. And his stats don't back up. So his stats were still good yesterday, but his game was even better. There were so many little spoils and tap-ons that he did that saved us yesterday. How did you see, watching him at the game? Fantastic. How did you see his role on TV?
Yeah, well, I agree. I think it's his best game for the year. And but he has played well this year. And what his offensive games back, his attacking games back. I think I said earlier in the year, he's now competing in the air, which was always one of his great strengths for a guy who's only what is he, 5'11" in the old, 178 centimetres, 180 centimetres maybe. He's always been a very good mark for his height, and that's come back this year. And now the run and carry is starting to come back into his game too now. Not quite back to 23, but I've given him votes. I think he was, I agree basically.
He's having a sneaky good year. He really is. Like he's having a sneaky good. He could finish top 10 in the Copeland. I reckon he's in a year where we've been very, very good and had a lot of good contributors. All right, something I want to touch on again. This isn't player related, but it was something that I noticed in Flyers press conference, and he said that he thought the connection from our midfield to our forward, so kicking inside 50, had improved, and I think the stats had backed that up. He threw around a few stats, which shocked me because at the game I was pulling my hair out. I thought it was atrocious. Live, I thought it was the amount of times that these guys were just the Tom Mitchells and Ned Longs of the world, who I think those two played solid games, so I don't really want to pick on them. It was basically everyone other than Nick Daicos. The way that they hacked the ball in was just, there's no composure. They don't lower their eyes. It is just bomb in, Melbourne-like, Clayton Oliver-like, bomb in, hope for the best. And what Nick Floston ended up having, was it like 17 intercept marks? Did I hear that right? How can you say that improved? I don't care what the stats say. The eye test to me said it didn't improve. And we talked about the training loads, but I think this is a worry. Like the training loads don't affect this. And I think Fly actually said that himself because it's been the Freo game and the Gold Coast game and now this game. The kicking inside 50 has been atrocious, and that's normally a strength for us.
Yeah, well, I wrote down at quarter time Long's poor disposal, and Long got better as the game went on. But just early in the first quarter, there was a few instances where he had time and space, and his kicking was pretty atrocious. We don't want him kicking the ball. We want him handballing. But he did get better.
His kicking for goal's not actually bad, other than that one against Freo last week, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But, his field kicking was very poor. And I've actually got a few of our key forwards in the votes, not big votes, but because I think they battled hard in spite of the fact that I don't think our kicking to them was very good, as you say, other than Nick Daicos. So that was I didn't know McRae said that because I didn't think it was crash hot either. And so it looks like, just changing subject, well, related to an extent, looks like Sullivan may be out for the year now.
That was my next thing in my notes.
Yeah. So does that change? Well, obviously it will change our makeup, but does it make it any more likely that we play Mitchell and Long together? Because Sullivan is not unlike them in that he was really, as a VFL footballer, he's really an inside mid. I know he's been playing on the flank for us, but does that make? I'm not convinced. I'm waxing and waning whether they can play together or not, because Long hasn't been as good since Mitchell's come into the side.
Well, let me say. So, one, I don't think it will make a difference because the role he's been playing, like I know he's saying that's his role in the VFL, but quite simply, it isn't in the AFL, so it doesn't. No. And secondly, so I've got later on sort of like team selection talk, but I will say now that I think it's a pretty clear swap that Bobby Hill will replace Lockie Sullivan in that forward line, and the Tom Mitchell Long debate is something completely different. And we could talk about that a little bit later on. But I just don't want to skip over the Lockie Sullivan injury because it sounds like a PCL.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
I've been at times this year, I've been a little bit critical of just looking at him being like he's just not really polished enough. But overall, I've ended up giving him Julian Rowe medal votes a few times. Overall, I've never thought he would end up being in our best 22 to 23 players by season's end. That never considered it. But he's been really serviceable for us this year because we've had a lot of injuries and he's almost been a regular and just playing his role, and he's had some really good moments, some really good games. He tries his heart out, and it really is a shame because if we do have a couple of injuries come September, I think he's in our top 25 to 26, and he's earned the right to be in consideration to cover for an injury. We all know the story, looked over in so many drafts. So it is quite devastating that a month out from finals, this has happened to him. I don't think he's in contract. I would be giving him a 1-year contract straight away. He's earned that. 100% he's earned that. And yeah, personally, I'd like to thank him for his services this year because I don't.
Not listening to him. He doesn't.
It's just showing a bit of respect because
Jesus Christ.
he's the type of player that we don't talk about a lot, but he's a hardened body that's been able to play a certain role for us, whether it been a forward line or in the midfield. And yeah, I think that's important. It's better than having a skinny kid there that, gets pushed off it too easily. So It's a shame. It is a shame.
And even though he hasn't played a lot of senior football, he's actually an experienced footballer. He's a mature, experienced footballer. Like you said, he's not like an 18, 19, 20-year-old. He's been around a little bit. He's mature, and he has been good for us in the last month to 2 months. He's one of our depth players, but he has been playing regularly because of the injuries we've had, and he's performed well. He's performed solidly. So it is a bit disappointing he's gone down because it's just one less guy we can call on now. So, yeah.
Well, I've only got a couple more things to mention from this game. I'm not sure how much you've got to talk about, but I'll talk about Charlie Dean quickly. I think he was all right. I think he took 10 intercepts. You didn't like his game. Okay, you go.
No, look, I'm not going to pass judgment on his game. Just a couple of stuff-ups he had with ball in hand. Look, I won't detail them because everyone makes mistakes, but it's just...
He took 10 intercept possessions.
Yeah.
Like he's not a star, but we just needed him to play a role until Frampton and Howe were back. I mean, the last 2 weeks he hasn't disgraced himself.
No, he hasn't. No, he's been solid, but just a couple of muck-ups here and there. But what else we got to say? I just want to touch on the umpire. Just one. They were pretty good. Just one.
Were they?
Oh, look, yeah. Just one decision. The Perryman decision, where he had that guy who was tempted to take a specky over him, and then he got done. The guy dropped the mark, but he got done for shepherding. I think the ruling was that Perryman. And the commentator, I think the umpire might have been heard on these mics saying, you took your eyes off the ball. I'm not sure what he was about to have a mark taken over him. He knew that. He was protecting the drop of the ball, the drop zone. That's what you do. He's allowed to protect the drop zone of the ball. And nowhere in the rule, as far as I'm aware, does it say you can't take your eyes off the ball. This business, he took his eyes off the ball and looked at his opponent. That's a trigger for a free kick from the umpire. That is nonsense.
You can't take your eyes off the ball. You can't. This is what I know. You can't take your eyes off the ball and then make contact with your opponent.
Where does it say that in the rule? I've heard nowhere in the rule book does it say that.
Wait, have you got the rule book? That's a rule, Michael.
No.
It wasn't a free kick. Don't get me wrong. But say if you've got the ball and you're trying to take a mark, and I just sort of charge at you, try to spoil, but don't have my eye on the ball, miss the ball. That's a free kick to you every day of the week. If I make contact with you and I'm not looking at the ball, that's
talk about this instant, right? Okay. So my understanding is nowhere in the rule book does it make mention of this diverting your eyes business. It doesn't say it. Was what I'm told by experts. I heard it a few months ago on TV. They're saying it's not in the rule book because they were saying the same thing as me. So you got Perryman standing there, ball's coming down on him. He can see where the drop zone's going to be. So he wants to protect that drop zone from his opponent. He quickly looks to see the opponent's coming because he wants to know, what he's up against. Well, he's not allowed to divert his eyes for a second while he's protecting the drop zone.
Well, no, that's different because the Richmond player made contact with him. So he basically just stood there, Perryman. Yeah. The Richmond player jumped on him.
Yes.
Didn't take the mark and then gave away the free. Yeah, that's different because the Richmond player was making contact with Perryman. That's different. If it was Perryman that was making contact with him and not looking at the ball, then it would be a free kick.
I'm talking about this specific instance.
Yeah, you're right. This instance, you're right. Yes, it was not a free kick. It was a disgraceful decision by a disgraceful umpire. But that's what you get every week.
Well, he's not disgraceful, but
he is.
Because if that was the case, Peter Hudson would have kicked 100 goals, not 770 or whatever, because that was his whole game. Peter Hudson's whole game was protecting the drop zone of the ball and edging his opponent out. That was his whole game. So I just found that a bit of a head scratcher. And the other thing was, and it happens every week now, waiting for the injured player. There was
I said this at the game. Yes.
was it the Richmond guy? And I think it is in our
Ben Miller. Yes.
Yeah, and he hurt his head, and he was probably legitimately hurt. But this is so easy to exploit. This rule, players can feign injuries in order to slow the game down if it suits their side at that moment in time. If they want to slow the game down, get numbers back, whatever the case may be, they can feign an injury and the umpire hold the game up. Just get on with it.
Yeah, 100%. Unless the player's actually like properly knocked out or snapped a leg and it's in the middle of like the play, then that's understandable. But you see them, I think in opening round when a few of the Collingwood players are going down with cramp, they were stopping the game.
Yeah. Oh,
it's
yeah.
Cramp. It's cramp.
Both ways, not just against Collingwood. It's, yeah. So that's...
Well, I just wanted to touch on one more thing before we move on to the more important things. And that is Dan Houston. So Fly came out after the game in his press conference and said, yeah, we really want to get the ball into Dan Houston's hands more. And he made mention of his great kicking for goal from outside 50, which he hasn't lost. He did it again, kicked another beautiful goal from outside 50. That's the one thing he's been an elite at all year. But then Fly said he's starting to see signs that he's now going to have a big end to the year. Other than that goal, I didn't see any signs from Houston. It was just another okay game against the average team in Richmond, 17 disposals. And I want to give a shout out to the Collingwood Rant. They've been big on this. And I honestly, other than them and myself, I haven't really heard many other people talk much about Dan Houston's season. And people are saying, oh, he's playing a role for us. He's playing a role. What, we traded 2 first-round picks and paid this guy a truckload of money to play a role that anyone could play? Maybe a Markov or someone that's on nothing. They can play that role. I think we're covering how bad he's been this year. I know that sounds harsh. And I said to you the other night, Michael, I said to you last year, me included, but a lot of Collingwood players last year, a lot of Collingwood supporters last year were talking about Lachie Schultz and what an ordinary first season he had, which he did. And we're not doing the same this year with Dan. And I'll tell you why we're not doing the same with Dan. It's because we're winning. Last year we were losing and we were frustrated, so we wanted to blame the new recruit. We wanted to blame the new recruit for not playing well and not helping us win more games of football. This year we're kind of just sitting back. Yeah, it's okay, Dan. Dan will become. He'll be good because we're winning games of football. Well, Lachie Schultz played in almost the most difficult role possible. A small forward in a team that was struggling. They couldn't get it there. They weren't kicking it well. Maybe we were actually a little bit hard on Schultz. It wasn't easy for him. Dan Houston is playing the most comfy role in football, the halfback role in a team that's been winning every single week. I'm not sure. He has great moments, like I just said, those kicks inside 50. Elite. I almost say there's no one in the comp that does it better than Dan Houston. But he just needs, like Fly said, we want the ball in his hands more. People say his 17 disposal games are good. They were his bad games at Port Adelaide. And I know we play slightly different to Port, but I want to see those 17 disposals turn into 25 disposals. I'm not asking for 30, 35. If Dan Houston can get 25 disposals, then look out. We will almost be unstoppable in September because him along with the goalie and Bobby Hill, those three are our missing links because we haven't really had much good football out of those three all year, and they're all stars. So I want Houston to basically pull his finger out because I don't know why we're patting him on the back for a 17 disposal game against Richmond. I don't know why the coach is, but it's about time he did better. Yeah.
Well, couple of things. By and large, I agree with you. But to begin with, I wasn't tough on Lachie Schultz last year. Secondly, Houston. I've just forgotten what I was going to say, but it was going to be compelling, and it was going to be a really good point. I think he'll get there. It's taking longer than I would have liked. I would have thought it would have clicked by now. But I concede most of it. But as far as extracting the finger, I don't think it's a lack of effort. I think it's not a matter of saying pull your finger out. He's obviously trying. It's just whatever reason it's not working for him. at the moment.
Michael, I could go out there and I could try. It doesn't mean I'm good at football. He needs to do better. I don't care what the reasons are. He needs to do better. We got him here on the big bucks. We're a premiership contender. Time to perform.
Yeah, no, I think he'll get there. I think he'll get there this year.
We're running out of time.
But again, we're not in the club, so we don't know if there's extenuating circumstances. Is he carrying something
all year for 20 rounds?
Well, people can carry things throughout the entire year. We've heard about players who have needed operations and waited to the end of the year to have them and carried them for half a year. We don't know.
Honestly, Dan Houston, I reckon, is our second best player after Nick Daicos. I think he's that good, and that's why I'm being so tough on him. But I was pumped to get him. I was absolutely pumped to get him, and I'm still pumped that we've got him. I'm only hard on him because I expect more. If he was just a average player, I would be sitting back and I wouldn't be talking this way about him. He is an absolute superstar of the competition, and he needs to start to show it.
Yeah, but I don't look. You say you regret being so tough on Lockie Schultz last year, and yet you're doing it to Dan Houston now. And it's not like Dan Houston's been terrible. He's been solid, and of course, yes, he's not playing the way you would expect from a guy who we've coughed up a couple of early draft picks for. But yeah, I think okay. Look, that's going to be a huge bonus if he does recapture his form, as you say, before finals. What a huge lift that's going to be. But
and I don't want people saying if/when that happens, and fingers crossed. I don't want people saying, "Oh, Dermot, you bagged him. Ah, look at that, sucked in." No, I'm sitting here right now saying he's our second best player after Nick Daicos. Our second best player. That's why I expect him to do that. So I rate him. I rate him so bloody highly. He's a star. So, yeah, if he finally does come good, I'm not going to cop anyone, give him his shit, saying, oh, yeah, he proved you wrong. No, he's just finally done it. All right, now let's get... Oh, do you have anything else you want to mention from the Richmond game?
No.
All right, let's get into Serg's VFL report.
Well, that's the thing that's what I like about, yeah, that's the thing about football.
The VFL wrap where the Pies took on Frankston at Kinetic Stadium in slippery and wet conditions. The Pies with 12 AFL listed players, including Jordan De Goey, Hill, Frampton, Cox and McRae, started brilliantly, leading by 16 points at quarter time, thanks to the dominance of Cox and Steen in the middle, and Hill kicked 2 goals, as did AJ. However, after quarter time, the Dolphins just got on top. They won the territory battle and ground ball. Their pressure was elite and put the Pies under constant pressure, and our disposal efficiency just dropped away. No connection in the back line, and we found it difficult to kick goals. The final scores were Dolphins 16-10 106 to the Pies 10-10 70. Some highlights included, obviously, the Jordan De Goey, Hill, Frampton got through the game okay. McGuire's goal. McRae had an outstanding game, as did Brady Gray and Parker, but we just weren't good enough to win it on the night. Again, the Pies going down by 36 points. Over to you guys.
All right. Thank you, Serg. Once again, another great listen. Michael's looking at me like...
How did the vision go this week?
A lot better. Serg saw the funny side of last week.
Yeah.
It was good. But that's Serg's VFL report. And he sort of just... Michael hasn't actually heard it yet. He talks more about the game and certain players like Finn McRae. It was good to see him back and so on. Michael, you watched the game on TV. Unfortunately, I missed it because I was holidaying in Melbourne, was out Saturday night. But Michael, you were lucky enough to get to watch it. And I'm not going to ask you about the game itself. I don't care about that. Serg has already filled us in. I'm going to tell you a few players that I want you to sort of give us a run by. So the first one is Tom McGuire. The Tom McGuire watch is back. Michael's back. Tell us, how did the son of a gun go in his first game in black and white?
Okay, I think he came on in the second half. Okay. kicked a goal, socket a goal about a metre out from the goal square, but probably might have had 5 possessions. Attended a couple of centre bounces from memory, but mostly played on a wing, half forward.
It was a low time on ground.
It was very low time on ground, very low time. He looked a bit out of his depth. And he came on when the opposition were just dominating. Like after, halfway through the second quarter, it looked like how far to Pies. We got 3 goals up, and we were dominant. And but just for the next quarter and a half, we couldn't get our hands on it. They were kicking him from everywhere. So he came on at a tough time. He wasn't getting any help from his teammates as far as, run and carry and get him involved in the play. So he looked a bit out of his depth. But, he's a 17-year-old playing against men. So...
well, would you say, I'm not sure, did they say in the commentary whether he's going to be playing for the remainder of the year? Is he going to be playing more games? Do you know?
No, they didn't make mention of that. Not that I've heard. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, so now I'll run by the 3 big names, the AFL listed boys. It's kind of funny when the main talking points of the weekend come out of the VFL instead of the AFL. But that's just what it is. It's and we'll start with big bad Billy Frampton, and we'll work our way down to the more relevant ones a little bit later. He will obviously come straight back in. Interesting that he started in the VFL. How did you say his game?
Oh, look, so again, he played, I think he came on primarily in the second half. Didn't have a lot of game time. Played in his customary role, deep back. And they were the ball was coming in so often and so cleanly, and they were just kicking them from absolutely everywhere. He was on a hiding to nothing. He was getting no help from his midfield. I don't remember it wasn't like he was outmarked. In one-on-one contests. But yeah, look, a couple of intercept marks.
It's hard. It's always, I didn't watch the game, but it's always hard to assess Billy Frampton's game, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, low possessions, wasn't taking any intercepts or anything like that. Just a purely dour defensive game, and the back line was under a tremendous amount of pressure.
Does he come back next week? Did he look fit enough?
Well, again, it's that's a fitness thing. How long's he been out? I know as much as you do.
3 or so weeks, 3-4 weeks, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, you reckon he'd be close to coming back, but he didn't get, like I said, he didn't get a hell of a lot of game time, which surprised me. I thought he would have been on right from the very beginning.
Well, I think Fly said in his weekly press conference, it was kind of interesting that they were going to hold him back one more week and get some more training into him. And then they thought, no, we may as well just play him in the VFL, and that could sort of be his training load. So maybe they just all along, they just had a certain amount of minutes that they wanted him to play for. That was basically his training. And I expect he would be straight back in against Brisbane.
Well, does he have does he have an obvious matchup against Brisbane? They've got that young guy, and they've got Hipwood.
It's Sam Day back. So if it's not Sam Day, it'll be Darcy Ford. They go with the two.
Yeah, hardly Royce Hart though.
But I'd still play him. I've heard many Collingwood content creators say, and I agree with them lately, that we need to stop messing around with the team. We need to now pick our best 22, 23 every single week leading the finals, and Billy Frampton's a part of that.
I agree, but you still have to take into account the fitness of the individual player.
Oh, of course, yeah,
exactly, yeah.
But I think he'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think that he was close to AFL, and they thought they might as well just all right. The bigger talk. Oh, sorry.
My gut feel is he'll come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bigger talking point was Bobby Hill. How did you say Bobby's game?
Yeah, both at the start of the game, they interviewed the seconds coach, whose name's escaped. Who's their seconds coach? Doesn't matter.
Oh, Jesus. How have I gone blank? I know our seconds coach. I've just gone completely blank.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He said he was looking at both DeGoey, and I think he said Hill as well, 70% game time. I think I said to you on the phone, I think they seem to play a lot more than 70%, which surprised me. They seem to play the vast majority of the game. I might be wrong. But, Bobby started in his usual role in deep forward, kicked a couple of late goals in the in the first quarter, and then of course, like I said, for the next quarter and a half, the ball just didn't get down there. And when it did come down there, it didn't come down with any efficiency at all. So they moved him on ball. So for about the last quarter and a half, he played on ball.
He kicked 3 goals in here. Sorry if you said that because I was just looking up who our VFL coach was.
Yeah. Well, he kicked two late ones in the first quarter as a forward pocket, as your deep forward, and then for the last quarter and a half, he went into the midfield because I think they just wanted to get him a bit of a run because the ball, he just didn't see the ball for a good quarter and a half when he was playing deep forward because such was Frankston's dominance. He ended up kicking another one as an on-baller. I think he ended up with about 13 possessions, 3 goals.
So that's good. For how many goals did we kick for the night?
I don't know.
Yeah, so it wasn't a lot. We got smashed. So that's a pretty good performance from Bobby.
Yeah, he did okay considering.
He walks straight back in. I think he does, especially with Sullivan out.
Especially for the role he plays, he's not a midfielder. He's a forward, but he's not going to need to be running 12, 13, 14, 15 kilometres. So I think his level of fitness should be enough.
Especially because he wasn't injured either. He's not getting over an injury. He'll be fine. Yeah. I think Bobby comes back. And he owns Brisbane, so they'll be shaking in their boots with Bobby. All right, the main talking point, Jordan De Goey. Talk about his game. Talk about his role. Talk about how, if he looked fit and everything. Just talk everything you want about Jordan De Goey because I'm fascinated.
All right. Like I said, he played a lot more footy than I thought he would, and he played the entire game as an inside mid.
That's surprising because that shocked me. When you sent me that text, I was out at dinner. You sent me that text. That I almost fell off my chair because I was expecting him to be forward. Is that a sign of the role that you reckon he's going to play in the AFL team, or was it just let's get some football into you, get you around the ball, like? We don't want you. What's the point in playing you forward and you not being able to get yourself into the game?
No, to me, and again, I'm only guessing, it wouldn't be a indication of what his role is going to be when he gets back to Collingwood. We get back to the seniors. It's more of an indication of let's get some miles in his legs.
Yeah. That's what I was going for. Yeah.
That's what I reckon. But what surprised me isn't so much that he played. He's had the whole game as an inside mid. It's how much of the game he played. And I reckon it was, as I said, a lot more than 70%. But I've heard McRae say since he's referenced the 70%. Gee, boy, he just didn't seem to be off the ground very often.
70% is a fair chunk of the game. I think you're underestimating that. Like, you look at time on ground for the AFL team. Most of the guys are in the 70s. Anything 80 and up is high.
Yeah, maybe so. It just looked a lot more than that. As I said, he was heavily tagged.
Sorry to interrupt. Did you hear the story about that today on SEN?
No.
So the guy that tagged him apparently had 43 disposals himself for Frankston. That guy works in, I think it's our sales department at the AIA Centre.
Yes, they did reference the guy working at Collingwood because his colleagues who he works with blew up a couple of big posters of his head and had them on the boundary. These huge two-headed pictures of him.
That's fantastic. Imagine walking into work on Monday and you see Geordie and what would you be saying to him?
Yeah. That guy did play a good game. So De Goey, there was no exploding from stoppages. There was no two-way running. It was really just an accumulating game. He ended up 19, 20 possessions. So nothing fantastic.
Sorry, do you think that's because of his lack of fitness, or do you think he's just trying to get through the game? And
there was one stage late in the third quarter where it appeared like he was labouring a bit and struggling to get to a couple of contests. But then he seemed to have a second wind in the last quarter, and he looked okay again. But I thought he was running out of puff in that late in that third quarter. But yeah, there was none of the De Goey trademark exploding for stoppages and that type of thing. It was more an accumulating game. He just accumulated the ball. But at one stage, they looked like, and there might have been the reoccurrence of his finger tendon injury he had a couple of years ago. Where it looked a real worry that he might have done something, but he But he had the finger strapped at one stage, but then they took the strapping off. So
that's good.
Yeah, it looks like it's okay. Yeah, there you go. But it was great. I think they packed it out. They had 5,500. They had to shut the gates, and just suburban footy. It's a real pity that we don't have suburban footy anymore. For some of these lesser games, if they could go back, look, what I'm not sure what the infrastructure is these days, but if they go back to an old Princess Park, because like the game we did last week, last week's greatly heralded Blast from the Past, a lot of great feedback from that. But on that game, there was 37,000 at Victoria Park, and 35,000 would have been Collingwood supporters. The atmosphere back in those days, and I used to go to Vic Park in the 70s and in the 80s and into the mid-90s. There's nothing. They talk about the atmosphere at the MCG, nothing like suburban footy atmosphere, where it's just packed to the rafters. It's a real pity we don't have that. That's been lost. I think you get a little bit at the Adelaide Oval. I think that's got a suburban footy.
Adelaide Oval was amazing. I was there for Gather Round. It was my first time, and I was blown away. It's not as good as the G, but it's very different to the G. It's unique in its own way. I loved it. Yeah. It's my second favourite sports ground in Australia.
Yeah. I don't get to a lot of games, as you know, but I went to a game a couple of years ago with a mate of mine at MCG, and I just kind of looked around like, I was used to the old days of Victoria Park where the opposition supporters are complaining that the toilets wouldn't flush and it was disgusting. And it's all kind of corporatized and sterile now. It's really doesn't appear to be much heart to it.
Oh, I think you'll find there's a lot of heart. If you were there at that Collingwood GWS prelim in 23, there was a lot of heart that night.
Oh, yeah, but it's not... Yeah.
But I'll give you the Richmond game I was at yesterday. That was almost the most flat game I've ever been to. So I was telling my partner, she hasn't been into a game in years, and she loved it, which is great. But I was saying to her, I wish that you could experience an actual proper atmosphere, because you kind of got the vibe that the Richmond fans were flat because they knew they were going to lose from the first bounce. The Collingwood fans were flat because we had nothing to really gain from that game, and maybe if we were smashing them, we would have been a little bit more up and about. But it was a pretty ordinary performance, and neither supporter base was really up and about, and completely different to I've been to on my long service. I went to 6-7 games in a row. Every single one of those games were pumping. And this game just felt,
Well, what was the attendance yesterday?
59,000.
59. Well, imagine had that been at a Victoria Park. And I know we can't go back in time, and it's all about moving forwards and what's good, for the bottom dollar and that type of thing. And it's, but imagine 37,000 at Victoria Park, what the atmosphere would have been like, as opposed to 57,000 or whatever it was at the MCG. It's just,
Well, that's why going to cricket. Like I always say, that watching cricket over in England feels so much better when you got your 25,000 or whatever packed in than watching it at the MCG where you might have 50, 60,000, but it just feels soulless. It's just empty. Like even though there's more than double there than what you would get in England, it just doesn't quite feel the same. But I just want to touch on
Gather Round's the perfect example. Like imagine I haven't been there, but Norwood Oval. Little oval, packed out. Anyway.
It's hard to get to. That's so. When I went to Gather Round earlier in the year, I went to all 5 Adelaide Oval games, but I wasn't able to get secured tickets to even Norwood game. It just goes like that, the tickets. It's hard to get. But we left out the most important question about Jordan Goey.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
When is he going to be back in the seniors? Is he ready? I feel like that is the most important question.
Well, I thought you were going to talk about the pending birth of Goey Jr.
He's having a kid.
Not Goey Jr. because it's a girl, but
congrats, Johnny. But no, when is he going to be right, Michael? I didn't get to watch him, so I don't know how he looked. When do you think he'll be right to play? Is it this week against Brisbane, or maybe another week in the VFL?
Again, I'm not part of the conditioning staff at Collingwood, but to me, I reckon he'd need another run in the VFL.
My gut feel is that as well. Without seeing him, of course, I was saying that from the start. He would need at least 2, surely.
Yeah, he'd need at least 2. And even when he comes, I can't see him spending a lot of time. He's going to be predominantly, I reckon, forward mid. predominantly forward, and he might take a few centre bounces. But, there you go.
All right. So before we get into sort of team selection talk and preview the next month ahead, well, this is what?
So talking about team selection, you just reminded me of something. I saw the Bulldogs best 25 players ever selection last week. Did you see that?
You know that this is a Collingwood podcast with
What a mockery! What an absolute mockery of the whole system.
Be careful, Michael. It's too late for me to edit things out. Be very careful what you say.
No, it's just what I think. You don't need to edit it out.
I feel like I know where you're going with this because we had this conversation.
Everyone would agree with me. So, Footscray, Western Bulldogs selected their best 25 players ever. All right. Ted Whitten was 1, Bontempelli 2, as you all know. And then from 5 onwards, they just picked the next best 20. No, not in any order. And they picked an AFLW player. It just makes a mockery of the system. It treats the public like idiots, and it's patronising to the woman involved. Like I don't even know the lady's name, but she's not in the best 25 players the Bulldogs has produced. Like it's just nonsense. It's patronising. It's a mockery, and yeah, there you go.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up in a Collingwood podcast. Now we'll get back to Collingwood.
You can talk about your inability to urinate on a plane going from Melbourne to Hobart, but I can't bring up a football topic.
Answer me this. Is that ridiculous that both sides of the plane, you can't walk down the aisle to go to the toilet in a 1-hour flight? Do people really need food and drink that much? And I had some disgusting bogan family sitting in front of me that ended up getting beers in a 1-hour flight on a Monday night from bloody Melbourne to Hobart. Go away. I need to pee, for fuck's sake. I was just glaring at them being like, you're joking. Oh, you're joking.
Dermot, you're not 5. I could say to you, why didn't you go before you left?
Like I did. I'm a big coffee drinker. You know that.
Well, you should plan
it
these.
It goes straight through me, Mick.
Let's move on.
Like, do you need to do a coffee shit? Have you ever had a coffee? There's no control in those, Mick.
Yeah, okay, Dermot. Okay, right. So you're having to go on here about the politically incorrect nonsense. Brian Royal, who was a great little rover of the 80s. He famously played 199 games, regular player for Victoria, really handy around goal, top little rover, didn't make the best 25. There you go.
It's too late for this shit. No pun intended. All right. So basically, when I was in Melbourne over the weekend, for the couple of days in a row, I would wake up early. I'd grab a coffee, grab some breakfast, and I'd walk around this really nice big park while my partner was getting ready for the day. And yes, it was my alone time, and I was able to think about the podcast and what we're going to be able to do. So a couple of days work into this. So I hope everything is right, and I'm happy to be called out if I get something wrong. But I played around with the ladder predictor. Basically to look at all the best case and worst case scenarios, what could happen to us. And I looked at realistic results. So for example, I would never tip, I would never tip Richmond to beat Geelong or anything like that. So I'm not looking if something crazy like that happens. I'm basically backing in all the favourites, the red hot favourites. I kind of look, if there's a 50-50 game, I'll look at both results and what that could mean, taking everything into account. So I've got 4 different categories, and the categories are short term, what it would look like if we beat Brisbane on Saturday night. Long term, short term if we beat Brisbane. Short term if we lose to Brisbane. Long term if we beat the Lions, and long term if we lose to the Lions. Long term being the 4 weeks. So let's just start. Let's just say hypothetically Saturday night we knock off Brisbane. We would be 10 points clear of them, and they could actually fall as far as 7th on the ladder. So that would be huge for us. To be 10 points clear of Brisbane, it would be nearly impossible for them to catch us with 3 rounds left. But what this says about this upcoming week, as important it is for us, it is really important for them, because I reckon if they lose this, I reckon top four's almost out of reach for them, which means it's going to be very hard for them to win the premiership. I know they did it last year from outside the four, but can they do it 2 years in a row? That would be a challenge in. So this game is huge for them. So we need to be on our A game. So if we won, we would then be a game clear top of the ladder, assuming that Adelaide beat the Hawks. If they don't, if they lose to the Hawks, we'll then be 8 points clear on top of the ladder. But most importantly, if we were able to win, we would be 8 points clear in the top 2 with 3 rounds to go. So essentially, you look at that and you'd be like, okay, we're in a pretty good position. But if we lose to Brisbane, we'll fall to second on the ladder based on percentage, assuming that Adelaide win. We will only be 2 points clear of Brisbane, who will stay in third spot. So that is a huge... So we could either be 10 points clear of them or 2 points clear of them. So this game has a lot riding on it. And believe it or not, we will only be a game clear of 6th spot, maybe even 7th if the Hawks were to upset Adelaide. So that is just unbelievable. We will only be 1 game clear of 6th or 7th spot on the ladder. So we'll be right back in the pack if we lose to Brisbane. So the differences between winning and losing are just huge. I reckon that this game, and I've still got more things to read out, but I reckon this game on Saturday night is our biggest home and away game since the round 23 game of 2022 against Carlton. This is as big as it's got for us. So it's going to be a nervous week ahead. All right. So I'll read those last few out. So if we're 8 points clear of third at the end of this round, so basically if we beat Brisbane and we're 8 points clear of third, we will only need to win 1 of our last 3 games to stay ahead of Brisbane. And due to our superior percentage, we should also be able to stay ahead of the Hawks, the Giants, Gold Coast, and Freo, even if those teams win every game for the rest of the year. So we should still be able to stay ahead of them if we win 1 of our last 3, depending on if we beat Brisbane. If the Cats win every game, which they should, I recommend everyone look at their fixture. They should win every game. And we can only manage 1 more victory, then we will likely play them in an away qualifying final. So we'll fall to third on the ladder, but we would get to stay at the MCG still. So it wouldn't be the end of the world. But yeah, that's how I'm looking at that. But if we're only 2 points clear of Brisbane at the end of this round, so we lose to them, this is when it gets interesting. If we only win 1 of our last 3 games, then we will almost certainly fall out of the top 4 altogether. Almost certainly. So that's... And when you look at our run home after Brisbane, the Hawks and Adelaide, and then Melbourne. So we could easily lose to the Hawks and Adelaide. We would actually be out of the 4 altogether. So this is where it gets a bit scary. If we win 2 of our last 3, we'll most likely either finish third and play Geelong at the G in an away qualifying final, like I said before, or if Brisbane win their final 3 games, we'll likely fall to 4th on the ladder and play either the Crows at the Adelaide Oval or Brisbane at the Gabba, which would be not as disastrous as falling out of the 4 altogether, but it's still far from ideal. But basically, we need to win. So if we lose to Brisbane, we basically need to win all of our final 3 games to hold on to a top 2 spot, which I know sounds crazy considering we will still be top 2 by the end of next round. But considering other teams' draws like Geelong, that will be the only way I reckon we can hang on to a top 2 spot if we need to win all our games. So Adelaide Oval, Hawthorn, and Melbourne. So that's essentially everything. Why are you pointing?
I'm pointing because you froze for a long period there, and then I lost connection for a moment.
Well, the listeners still would have been able to hear me.
Yes. Okay.
But what did you last hear?
Something about being scary, and then you froze for a great period, and then it went off and went off the feed altogether and came back on.
All right. Sorry to our listeners. I'll quickly run it by Michael. So basically...
Don't worry, I'll get it later.
No, well, it's important so we can talk about it. So basically, I can run through it really quickly. If we win assuming if we lose to Brisbane, if we only win one of our last 3 games, then we'll almost certainly be out of the top 4 altogether. If we win 2 of our last 3 games, we'll most likely either finish 3rd and play Geelong at the G in an away qualifying final, or if Brisbane go on to win their final 3 games, would fall to 4th on the ladder and most likely play the Crows at the Adelaide Oval or Brisbane at the Gabba. So both away qualifying finals. And basically our only real chance to hang on to a top 2 spot if we lose to Brisbane on Saturday is to win our final 3 games of the year. Because even though we'll still be second at the end of the round, looking at Geelong's draw and all the other, even Adelaide, who have West Coast and North Melbourne, they've all got really good runs. So they'll almost certainly overtake us unless we win all of our final 3 games.
Right.
So the difference between winning and losing for Collingwood on Saturday night is almost season defining.
Right. So basically, this one's obviously an 8-point game, and then potentially the 2 thereafter, Hawthorn and Adelaide, or Adelaide and Hawthorn, wherever it is, they're also potentially 8-point games.
Depending on depending on what happens on Saturday.
Exactly.
Because we could still just walk away with 1 win as long as we beat Brisbane and still finish 3rd and play Geelong at the G in a qualifying final. It's not ideal form-wise going into the finals, obviously. But yeah, this Brisbane game is huge for us. Huge.
So do we win? Because I can't. If you're asking me for a tip, I can't give a tip because I seriously don't know. I don't know.
Well, Brisbane didn't look good on the weekend, did they?
No, but Brisbane are a very, very good side, and they'll be fired up like you wouldn't believe.
Well, man,
they played 2 bad games in a row.
Like I said, this is in a way bigger for them because they lose this. I can't stay away from them and finish top 4. So I did my ladder predictor based on what I just think will happen at the end of all this, and I've got us finishing 2nd, and I've got Brisbane. Believe it or not, I've got Brisbane finishing 7th. That's how big this game is for them. So I'm obviously tipping the Pies by that ladder predictor that I just said. Am I confident? Of course not. Of course not. They're a great team, despite what happened on the weekend. They're the reigning premiers. It is huge. This game is season defining, and it sucks that we're in this position because we have just been the clear best team for the majority of the year. And I know I've had a week to cool off, and I was going on about the rest-ins last week straight after the Freo game, and I still stand by that. I know it's the heat of the moment, but now I've cooled off. I'm still standing by it. I don't believe that we should have rested that many players in the Gold Coast and Freo games, the Gold Coast especially, because now we're back in the pack and we've got a really tough run to end the year. And like I said, it isn't impossible for us to finish out of the 4 altogether.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen us bank a couple more wins just to really shore up that top 2 spot before being so expansive in our management of players. Again, we're not in the club. That's a proviso in everything I say. That we're not in the club, so we don't know. But clubs have got it wrong in the past by managing players too much or too little. So it's not outrageous to say that we could be making mistakes in this regard. So it would have been nice. We had 14 wins. It would have been nice to have got banked our 16 wins and then maybe ease up on the guys a bit.
Like we only rested Pendlebury. He was the only one we rested for the Richmond game, and he was originally named. Yeah. So why didn't we rest anyone against Richmond, yet we did it against 2 quality teams in Gold Coast and Freo? It just kind of blows my mind a little bit. It just blows my mind. Like you said, we're not inside the club, but my gut feel is that we stuffed this up. Let's just hope we can make amends and hold on to top 2, because if we can't and we don't end up winning the premiership, I reckon we'll look back and this could haunt us.
Yeah.
And hopefully everything I just said then made sense. It is quite complicated. Hopefully I explained it okay. You might have to rewind it and listen to it a couple of times for it to make sense. But yeah, essentially it's going to be a really stressful last 4 weeks, especially if we can't win against the Lions.
Yeah. There you go.
I do want to talk a little bit about team selection then, because I'll run through a few players that should all be back this week. So Bobby, we've already talked about Bobby. Bobby should be back. I think straight swap for Lockie Sullivan. Hal should be back, fingers crossed, along with Billy Frampton. And I think those two will come in for Charlie Dean and Oleg Markov. And then Pendles comes in, obviously. And this is where we can talk about the Tom Mitchell and Ned Long thing again, because I've weighed it all up. So you got Titch, you got Ned Long, then you got a couple of other guys like Ed Allen and Will Hoskin-Elliott that don't play midfield. I think Mitchell and Long are both ahead of Hoskin-Elliott and Ed Allen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Hoskin-Elliott and Allen would be the ones that are dropped for Pendlebury, because I have thought about it and I've got Tom Mitchell, who I, spoiler alert, gave votes to in the Julian Rowe medal, which is going to come up soon. I gave him votes and I've got him omitted because I've still got Ned Long ahead, and I don't think you can play Pendlebury, Mitchell, Ned Long, side bottom, all in the same team. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think we spoke about this briefly during the week. We're both leaning towards when the best 23 is available or close to it, that you can't, because Long and Mitchell, they're not guys who can spread from a contest, really, are they? And we see, Melbourne and Carlton's game plan these days. They've got the game plan, as has been well documented recently. They've got a contested game plan that was good 4 or 5 years ago. We don't want to fall into the trap of getting too many guys who can't run and spread from a contest. So we're talking about who stays, who goes. But you brought up a point. Grand final day, heavy day, bit like 02 or 09, St Kilda, Geelong. A guy like Mitchell, an experienced guy, that would suit him down to the ground. So, no, I don't. My gut's telling me we can't play both of them. Which one we're going to play when the whips are cracking at the end of the year? Do we play the guy? He's a bigger bloke. He can stand up to it in a tackle, feed the ball off to the likes of Nick Daicos and Pendlebury and De Goey maybe? Or do you go with the experienced head of Mitchell? Just a guy who in the 23 grand final got 24 possessions and kept Lockie Neal quiet, which is a huge, huge achievement. His game was underrated that day. I don't know. I don't know at this stage what we do.
100%. Like right now, I say Ned Long has got his nose in front. That doesn't mean that that's going to be my opinion in 3 weeks' time, even next week. This could change quickly. Like Ned Long needs to keep on performing because you make some great points. And, well, they're actually my great points, which you stole. Well, you didn't steal. You gave me credit for them. But
even when it's a compliment, it's very much a backhand. Isn't it?
But yes, he's been there. He's done that, Tom Mitchell, in the big finals. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So essentially on here, I've got So I went through Bobby for Sullivan, Howe and Frampton for Dean and Markov, Pendles for Titch, in brackets, for now. I've got Ed Allen staying in the 22 for now, and Hoskin-Elliott stays in as the sub for now. Because assuming that Bobby, Howe, Frampton, and Pendles are all back, I think the only two players that will be missing from our best 23 will be De Goey, who could also be back, but I'm tipping he'll spend one more week in the VFL. And, of course, Beau McCreary, who is gone for about another 2 to 3 weeks, still with that hamstring. Ed Allen and Hoskin-Elliott will be, I think, the two that make way when De Goey and McCreary are right. Or will they? Will they? Because I spoke to you about this earlier in the week, and I'll give the boys at the Rants another shout out, and you, because you've had the same opinion as them. I spoke to you about the form of Dan McStay. And just quickly, how did you see his game yesterday, Dan McStay?
Well, I've actually given him a couple of votes. I thought he presented well. He didn't always finish his work off. But I was actually a little bit impressed by him. Only a couple of votes, but obviously not a great game by any stretch. But I think, yeah.
Well, that surprises me. I didn't think he was awful, and I didn't give him votes. But the 2 weeks prior, he hadn't kicked a goal, Dan McStay.
Yeah.
And I looked, and given a massive spoiler, I looked at the Julian Rowe medal leaderboard and how you and I had rated Dan McStay for the season. And between the two of us and the votes that we've given, we ranked him as our 23rd player for the year. And I'm thinking, rightio, 23rd player for the year. We're quite a way in now. I know he missed a few weeks through injury, but a lot of our players have missed quite a few weeks through injury. We're quite a way in. If we think he's our 23rd best player for the year, does that necessarily mean he's a lock? Does that mean he's a lock in the team? And really, when you don't look at the name and you just look at that, we say, well, no, maybe he isn't a lock. And you and the boys at the Rants have been big on this about having more of a mobile forward, that the Triple M's aren't working. And I've been a supporter of the Triple M's, and I think most Collingwood supporters have been. But you guys have all talked about Elliott has been at his best when he's only had a couple of those guys there. Now, you've talked about Membry for a while being the one that you would push out of the team. I know you like Membry, so I won't make any jokes about that.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking from a second ruck point of view, you still have to think about who's going to be second ruck.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Whenever I've talked about Membry not being in the side, he's kicked 26 goals for the year, so I'm not a big fan of pushing him out, but I'm thinking, how do you get that balance? So it's not so much about the people, it's about the balance of the side.
That wasn't a criticism of what I was saying. No, we get that. We're just talking about how you wanted more, just two talls and Jamie Elliott. And I started thinking about it. How is Jordan De Goey going to come in to this mix as well? And this is before the VFL game in the weekend where he played midfield. So now I'm starting to think, well, is he going to maybe spend a little bit more time midfield? Maybe neither Tom Mitchell or Ned Long play. Maybe it's De Goey that plays that role and both of them are sitting on the sidelines. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. But I was thinking at the time, De Goey's going to play forward and mainly forward. Do we go in with a mobile forward line of an Elliott, a De Goey, a Myercheck, and one of the other talls? And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, Tim Membry, I think, has had a superior season to Dan McStay. And I think he suits our game better. If you want De Goey and Elliott and these guys to come out of the goal square, I think that they're more likely to be able to do that with Membry and Myercheck supporting them instead of McStay, who isn't as much of a flexible player. He can run up and down. I know in terms of ruck, yes, he is flexible, but he isn't as mobile as those two. You sort of just put him forward and he's your target. So is that taken away from Elliott's? Because a lot of these games that Elliott he was playing well. That was when McStay was out of the team.
Yeah.
But then it got me thinking what you just said. Second ruck. How are we going to, because Membry, Myercheck, these guys, they're not going to be great options as second ruck. Cox, I don't think, is an option. Ned Long, do we really want to throw him in? So again, I've now settled back on, I think McStay and the Triple M stay in the team based on that alone. But I'm not as sold on it as I once was. I am more open to seeing a Membry, Myercheck, De Goey, Elliott forward line and sacrificing our second ruck. And I think that's what it would be. It would be heartbreak. It would be the biggest heartbreak story of all time if we won the premiership and Dan McStay was an emergency. We all know what he's gone through. It would be devastating. And if there was one player I would love to see with a premiership medal, it would be Dan McStay. But sometimes you just got to do what's better for the best for the team. Maybe that is it. Maybe McStay's the one that makes way and De Goey comes in as a forward.
Yeah. Well, it won't happen. McStay's highly rated. He's going to stay in the side. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but I can't see him being dropped. The other thing he brings, where he's a little bit different to the other, Myercheck and Membry, is he's more of a leaper of the ball. Those other guys are more kind of, body players. McStay's a leaper at the ball, can take the ball at his highest point. He's more of a contested marker than the other two. So that's what he brings. If you were talking from scratch, if you're just going to, and this again is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But, going back before the year started, I would have had somebody like a McStay, centre half back, Frampton a fullback maybe. I would have had more as that leaper in the forward line. He came to the club as a centre half forward more. People forget that. He was only put back to the back line by Buckley in order to apparently educate him as to how to play as a forward. So imagine him in the forward line, leaping for the ball. And then he could play second ruck, as Matt Randell, the late Matt Randell, always used to push for. He's always saying Moore should be our second ruck. I don't think it's a bad idea. It won't happen. Having said that, it will not happen. I guarantee it. But I think there's crazier things that would shore up the back line. You'd have Howe, you'd have McStay centre half back, you'd have Billy Frampton, a fullback, nice and solid down there, and you've got your leaper in the forward line, Moore, who can take that.
Sorry to interrupt. Did you see McStay late in the game spend a little bit of time down in defence? I'm not sure if that would have been picked up on the telecast.
I don't recall. The other thing about McStay and playing further up the ground is he's an elite kick into the forward 50. He's a beautiful field kick from his days at Brisbane, having watched him there. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't necessarily disagree with the Moore McStay thing. I think it's too late in the season to throw things completely around like that. But like maybe next year, who knows? But
yeah. I'll be critical. Somebody will say online, "Oh, that's a stupid idea," but I'm not saying it's going to happen. It will actually. I'm saying it won't happen. But I'm just saying, if you're inventing the side from this point, that's what I'd do.
And it's the same with me. Like, I'm not saying drop down McStay. It's just me sort of like thinking a little bit more outside the box, like you have been in recent weeks, and thinking I can see a world where that might work better. I'm not convinced on it either way. I'd like to see how it plays out. I'd like to see what position they expect the goalie to play first. I still think from the teams that I said, I think Ed Allen and Hoskin Elliott were staying for now, but they're the two I think will make way for the goalie and Bo McCreary. And McStay will stay in, as will Membry.
So I reckon there's definitely a balance issue on the side. How to fix that balance issue, I don't really know. Because that sticking, when it comes down to it, the sticking point is the second ruck. Yeah, there you go.
All right, to sort of move away from that, and I think there's one more thing I want to touch on in hot topics, and it's been a long hot topics because it's a big episode, a lot to talk about, but something that was broken typically, as it always seems to happen, just after we recorded our last podcast, only minutes after. Jack Silvani. Are you a fan of this recruitment? Because it actually sounds like it's going to happen. It's just grown legs over the last few days in particular.
Yeah, well, he's on my notes too. I've always been a Jack Silvani fan. I think he's a good, solid player. He obviously plays back. You can throw him forward. They used him for quite a while as their second ruck, which I was never a fan of, but he competed in there. He's a really competitive guy. So he's very. You can throw him anywhere, basically, is what I'm saying. The injuries worry me. He's out at the moment with a groin injury. He's had his knee. He's always had a succession of injuries. I don't know if he's ever played a full season. Now, do we counterbalance that against how hilarious it would be if he went on to be a premiership player at Collingwood and say his son qualified for father and son? That would just kill the Carlton supporters.
It would be beautiful.
Absolutely. And the other funny thing is if Peter Daicos sat next to Stephen Silvani at the games, just being able to compare and contrast their reactions would be hilarious as well. But no, I'd be happy. The only question mark is his injuries.
Yeah, I want him. Yeah, I want him. Perfect Jeremy Howe replacement for when he retires.
But what about the injuries?
Don't care. Let's just. You got to risk it to get the biscuit. He's a free agent. We don't have to pay anything for him other than the wage. Lock him in. Throw away the key. Welcome, Jack. Before we get into the Julian Rowe medal, is there anything that you want to touch on for the remaining 4 rounds? Like everything we just talked about, because this is probably the biggest 4 rounds coming up in Into the Woods history in terms of since we've been podcasting, because we started after the 23 premiership. These next 4 weeks are going to be huge, and we're going to have a lot to talk about. So is there anything that you want to put on the table before the Brisbane game, before this 4-week patch starts?
What in our great history of whatever it is, 20 months we've been going. Not so much the next 4 weeks, but there's been a development with Bobby Hill. Last week we talked about the possibility of him leaving at the end of the year. neither of us wanted him to, but what we could expect to get and how we'd use those picks. Well, there's been a few statements since then saying, no, he's definitely staying at the club. And that's reassuring in a way, but in another way, it worries me because if the domestic situation remains as it is with the kids on the other side of a very big country, I don't think that will end well for his footy. That won't work, I don't reckon. But who knows? Hopefully things sort themselves out because I'd prefer he stay at the club. But the worst case scenario is if he stays at the club, has a couple of down years, primarily because of the situation, then that's going to affect his trade value. I'd hate to come across as cold, but as you said, this is a footy podcast. So anyway, that's a watch how that goes. Something watching the twos on Saturday night, it reminded me of something that's been annoying me for ages. The handball. The handball no longer resembles what it was a generation ago. The AFL, because they're so keen to keep the game running, they're quite happy to look the other way when handballs are obviously thrown. Now, a handball, the ball has to be propelled primarily with your fist. These days, quite often, these handballs over the head they're doing. One guy at one of the Frankston guys the other day basically just tossed it back with his arm and he had his fist somewhere in the vicinity of the ball. No, play on. They're basically just chucking the ball. The momentum's coming from them swinging their arm, which is holding the ball. It's just a farce. And the AFL, because as I said, they're just obsessed with the game should keep on going, that they're letting these things go. So that's annoyed me. That's been annoying me for some time, really. And it just reminded me the other day when I watched that game. So that's it. The other thing.
Oh, God.
You asked me. How long did you talk about this freaking scenario of the last 4 weeks?
Oh, I'm sorry, Michael, that I talked about our final 4 weeks, something that's actually relevant to Collingwood instead of you talking about a couple of Frankston blokes throwing the ball.
I had a bath while you were talking about those last 4 weeks. Okay.
It's kind of relevant, don't you think?
Kylie Minogue.
Oh. All right, let's move on.
No. I was reminded the other day because I was watching something on YouTube about Dan Minogue, the former Collingwood captain of the kind of the just before and just after World War one of our greatest ever players. That's her grandfather.
Michael, it's 9:10 on a Monday night.
Up for a second. This is good stuff. That's where Danny Minogue comes from. She's named after Dan Minogue, the great Collingwood captain. How do you like that?
Let's get into the Julian Rowe medal.
He's been pretty good, Julian Rowe. He's been better than pretty good. He's been a forward that has presented for them today.
Hopefully I put the intro music in this week. I was devastated last week that I left out the intro music for the Julian Rowe medal. You know, in the 18 months that we've been doing that is the first time I've left out something like that. And it was straight after the Freo game, emotions were high, I was mentally drained. Thought I did a great job, bang, realised once I published it that the beautiful commentary of Gary Lyon was left out. But anyway, here we are. It's funny, we're going all the way back to the Richmond game now to talk about the players that we voted for. And I gave 32 votes. So I gave 2 votes to Tim Membry, sort of similar to what you were saying. You know, he had 12 disposals and 2 goals too. It wasn't an easy day for the key forward, difficult conditions. The way we were kicking it in wasn't great, and he was still able to play a decent game. So I gave him the 2 votes, followed by my check for the same reason. I gave him 3 votes for 12 disposals, 2 goal assists, and 2 goals won. So same amount of disposals, same amount of goals, but he had the extra 2 goal assists, which gives him 1 more vote over Tim Membry. So solid game from both of those boys. I gave 3 votes to Josh Daicos. He had 30 disposals, 6 inside 50s, and 697 metres gained. Really good numbers. Just felt like there were times where Josh Daicos, like he was caught. He was just caught. It's like he had no awareness. It was strange. So yeah, stat-wise good, but I don't think it was one of his better games. Still good enough to get a few votes though. 3 votes to Tommy Mitchell, 29 disposals, 6 tackles, a game high 24 pressure acts, and 7 inside 50s. Yeah, solid. Unfortunately, I've got him omitted for next week, but still a solid game. I gave his mate Ned Long 3 votes as well. It was funny. The eye test for me at the game, I didn't think that he was amazing. I then looked at his stats and they were okay. They were actually more impressive than Tom Mitchell's. So I was confused what to do. I settled on 3 because of the eye test wasn't great, but the stats were. He had the 23 disposals, a team high 11 contested possessions. He had 6 tackles, 21 pressure acts, a team high 6 clearances, and 10 score involvements. So all that's very good. As you can see, I've given very low votes to a lot of players. This is when there's a little bit of daylight. Isaac Quainer, 8 votes. So it goes all the way from 3 up to 8. He had the 17 disposals, a team high 9 marks, 379 metres gained, an equal team high 10 intercept possessions. And then I gave Nick Daicos, who had the highest rated game for the year. I'm not sure if you saw that. Highest rated game from any player in the competition on the weekend. So you do that, it's obviously going to be a 10-vote game if he's the best game of the year. He had a game high 42 disposals, a game high 8 inside 50s, a game high 910 metres gained, elite, a game high 14 score involvements, and a game high 3 goals won. Everything's game high for Nick Daicos. So to recap, Nick Daicos 10, Quainer 8, Long 3, Mitchell 3, Josh Daicos 3, Myercheck 3, Membry 2.
Right. Well, I drew a line through to voting the 3/4 time because the game was won at that stage. Percentage, to me, it's not a huge factor for Collingwood over the next month in that we're not catching Adelaide. Adelaide have gone right ahead, so we're never going to catch them.
It's a longer way ahead now as well.
Yeah, when we've got a buffer, so I don't think it's, and we've got a buffer against some of the other sides. So I don't think it's a huge consideration. So I drew a line through it at 3/4 time. So I've got Nick Daicos on 10. I've got 31 votes as well. You had 32. I got 31.
10, Michael. That's your first 10-vote game of the year.
Yeah, it's my first 10 for the 2 years. I think it was.
Maybe. Congratulations. So
Yeah.
that's the best, in your opinion, that is the best game a Collingwood player has played in the last 2 years.
Well, yeah.
Well, it must be if that's what you've done.
Yeah, 10 votes because, well, you had something like 33 and 3 goals by 3/4 time. So if you're not giving 10 for that, well, you might as well just make it out of 9. So Nick Daicos 10, Quaynor 7, Membry 4 for the reasons you said, Long 4, Myercheck 3, and McStay 3. I think the forwards were good considering it wasn't a day for forwards. The delivery wasn't great. I think they all played well. The three key forwards, if you call them key forwards.
Your votes are fine. Normally I criticise, but the one thing I will touch on. So I gave
your approval is the only thing I want.
I gave Myercheck 1 more than Membry because they had the exact same amount of disposals, exact same amount of goals. The only difference was Myercheck had 2 goal assists to Membry 0. So what made you give Membry the extra vote? That's what I'm going to be interested in.
I suppose you could just say that's just the way I saw it. The eye test, I thought the 2 goals he kicked were both kind of came at crucial times, I suppose you could say. And
I'd say Myercheck's did as well.
Yeah. My checks one from the boundary had a bit of arse to it.
Oh, it was a great goal. I love that.
Yeah, great goal, but a bit of arse. Whereas, memories was just go back 45, 48, 45 degree angle, your bread and butter goals that come with a little bit more pressure. Look, there wasn't much between them. But that's just my gut feel. I didn't really look at the stats and compare and contrast it. I just went on what I saw.
Fair enough.
There you go.
Fair enough. All right. We've got one more segment. Let's push through it. It's 9:18 p.m. I'm tired.
I've got a question. Why is this? This seems like a very long podcast for a game where we both said afterwards there's not a lot to talk about with this game.
Well, we haven't actually talked about the game a lot, have we?
Yeah, no. But you'd think, yeah. But
we're about to enter what is probably our biggest month of the year, but not including finals. Right now, this is going to set up our season, so it's worth talking about. Anyway, let's get in to Who Am I? All right, who am I, Michael? Are you okay?
It's been a weary day, long trip, long. So how many more of these have we got to go for the year? Or should I start taking massive chances now?
You need to hit a few sixes because I think I'm 19 to 12 up now. So you need to hit some sixes because I'm going to be doing some straight back work. But
I might take a punt after 5. I might just go bang, like Craig Stewart or something like that. Bang.
Right. What was I going to say? I've lost my thinking. Oh yeah. How many more have we got left? We're doing it into our last trade episode of the year. We mentioned that last week.
So we've got at least a couple of finals. We've got 4, that's 6, and then we've got a couple of posts. That's 6. So we've got about another 8. So we've got about another 4 opportunities for me to make up this ground. So yeah.
I'm playing straight bats though, so you need to hit some sixes. All right, who am I? For 5 points, Mick.
Yep.
I'm a midfielder and was drafted to a rival club with pick 41 in the 2018 draft from the Calder Cannons.
Okay. Midfielder.
So it's fairly recent, 2018, which means his first year was 2019.
2019, Calder Cannons. So he's down Geelong way. He might be a Warrnambool boy or something like that. Rival club midfielder. What midfielders came? So, sorry, what year was he? So say that. Give us the clue again.
I am a midfielder and was drafted to a rival club with pick 41 in the 2018 draft from the Calder Cannons.
Right. So 2018 draft from the Calder Cannons. So he's in his mid-20s now. That was, a midfielder. Is he still at the club?
No.
I could just get you to slip that one. So when did he come to Collingwood? Calder Cannons. Craig Stewart.
Can we move on to 4 points? It's 9:21 now, Mick. I don't want to rush you, but it's important that you get this, but I don't think you're going to get it at the 5. All right, for 4 points. In my underage football, I was likened to Sydney's Josh Kennedy. I was predicted to go top 10 in my draft class, but stress fractures in my back limited me to only 4 games in 2 years for Vic Metro, which would cause me to become a slider on draft night.
Midfielder. Back injuries.
These are good clues.
Okay. Midfielder. Back injuries.
Likened to Josh Kennedy.
So he's a big-bodied midfielder.
Predicted to go top 10 before the back injuries.
Oh, look, I was going to say something like a Braden Sire, but he wasn't at another club. He came straight to Collingwood, I'm pretty sure. No. Jeez.
I'll also just tell you right now, Braden Sire played in the 2018 grand final. And this player was drafted in 2018.
Just throwing up names. Yes, I knew he played in the 2018 grand final. He played a good final series.
And yes, he was only drafted to Collingwood. Yeah. He didn't play for another club.
But I'm just trying to think of somebody at that era, big body midfielder. Braden. Jesus. Who else did you have around? See, I can't think in this environment. Jeez.
Well, your little shitty hotel room in Launceston. That's a perfect place to think about it.
Too much pressure. There's too much pressure. You're looking at me. You're waiting for me. You'll be telling me that you need to talk, Michael, soon.
You'll be up to 1 a.m. bloody editing this.
And then you'll just say a word every 7 seconds just to distract me as well.
I haven't had my dinner and I've got no food in the house and everything's closed, so I'm gonna have to walk. Gonna have to walk down to the servo to get a burger.
So all I'm thinking about is burgers at servers.
Food at least. But I've got to. I live on top of a shop in the streets.
Shut up. Okay, so back injury, quarter cannons. Oh, jeez, I don't know.
Are you going to take a swing, or are we going to go for 3 points?
I can't think of anyone. I can't even take a swing.
Oh, well, we're moving to 3 if you can't think of anyone.
Given the environment, I can't think of anyone.
This is a recent player, so
I know, which heightens the pressure. I'm
trying to help you get back in this.
How you could help me? You know, it would be a big help. Shut your trap. All right, shut your fucking trap. Next one. I don't know. I can't think.
All right. For 3 points, I wouldn't play a game in my first season due to having surgery on my back, but would finally make my long-awaited debut in round 11 2020. I would play 22 games for my original club before being a surprised delisting at the end of the 2023 season.
At the end of the 2023 season?
Correct.
A surprise delisting. So somebody came to the club last year. It's not,
sorry, just watching.
It's not Ned Long. When did he come to the club? He was we picked him up at the end. We picked him up in the mid-season draft last year. Ned Long.
I never said when we picked him up. I just said that he was delisted by his club at the end of the 2023 season.
So if he was delisted by his club at the end of the 23 season, then surely we picked him up at the start of the 24 season or sometime in there. But I don't know if. But he wasn't really a slider in the draft, was he? For Hawthorn, did Hawthorn pick him up? Was he highly rated? I can't think. Who'd we get? Who's a big body midfielder like Kennedy, who came to the club last year? There's not that many on the list. But Ned Long, I don't think, was ever highly touted, who slid. And did he have back injuries? I don't think he did have back injuries.
You're right. So much for taking these swings. You're at 3 points at the moment.
I'm at 3 points. Let me just think. Sorry, just for the viewers, just go off, have a cup of tea or something. Give us 5 minutes. Fair income.
9:26 p.m.
No, okay, yeah. So he just came to the. So they did list him at the end of 23. So presumably he's come to the club Collingwood at the start of 24. Okay, who came to the club at the start of 24? You had Sullivan. Sullivan doesn't need that.
I never said that he came at the start, did I? He may have, but he may not have. All I said was he was delisted by his club at the end of the 2023 season. I've never said when he came to Collingwood.
So, but what did he? If he only came to Collingwood this year, then it's 2025. Then he was out of the game for a year. Hold on, let me work.
I'll break this down. He could have either come at the start of 24. He could have come in the middle of 24. He could have come at the start of 25. He could have come in the middle of 25. It could have been any of those options. There's 4 different options.
So if he was 18 in you said he was drafted in 2018, so he was born about the year 2000, so he'd be 25. Well, Ned Long's not 25.
I don't think I've ever given you so much help.
Ned Long's. I can tell you who it isn't, and it's not, Ned Long's like 23, so he's not quite old enough to be this guy.
Okay.
I don't know who it is. I don't know who it is.
Are we going to 2 points?
You said he was drafted in 18.
Yes.
So he was 17 or 18 in 18. Okay. You can't draft 17-year-olds, though, can you? That would really be the best part of 18. So he's born 2000. It's 2025. Ned Long's not 25 years old. I'm going to be kicking myself. It's somebody obvious. I should know this. Next one.
For 2 points. This is a short. This is very, very short, this question.
Oh, so give me something at 2 points.
It's a big clue. For 2 points. My first club was St Kilda. You still don't know. I reckon at this point, everyone else listening is jumping out of seats knowing who it is. I love that.
He's a midfielder. Wait on, he's a midfielder. And he came from St Kilda and he's about 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And he was delisted. Oh, it wasn't that guy, was it? That we got as an SSP.
That guy. What's
his name? Starts with B. His surname starts with he was a former St Kilda. It's him, isn't it? Bytel. It's Bytel.
Are you looking at him?
Is it? So he's come to the club for a year, basically played a couple of games. Was he compared to Kennedy though? Like he was a midfielder, but I don't. Is it Jack Bytel? Was that his name?
Are you looking that in?
No.
No, so we're going to 1 point, are we?
Wait on. I'm just give us a chance to think. So this guy.
I think this Who Am I has gone for over 10 minutes. This is the longest ever.
Well, who's in our midfield at the moment? Let's.
Oh, for God's sake!
I wanted a process of elimination. I'm ruling out Pendlebury. I'm ruling out Sidebottom.
It's now ticked over 9:30.
Shut up! I'm ruling out Mitchell. Okay, I'm ruling out the Daicos boys, DeGoey, Sullivan, Lipinski. I reckon it was Jack Bytel, wasn't it? But was he ever highly? I'm going Jack Bytel.
Lock it in.
Bytel is his. I'm just going to go Bytel. I'm pretty sure his name is Jack. St Kilda had about 10 guys named Jack. I reckon it's a fair bit.
Are you locking it in for 2?
I'm going to lock it in for 2. Bytel. I'm going to feel I'm wrong though. Give it. Okay, I've locked.
All right, for 1 point.
Bytel.
After not being picked up by another club in the off-season, I was offered to train with the Pies during the pre-season for a 2024 list spot. I would go on to get selected as an SSP rookie alongside Lockie Sullivan and Josh Eyre. I would play 7 games in 2024, but would unfortunately find myself delisted again at season's end. I now currently play for Coburg in the VFL. I am Jack Bytel.
Yeah. That was, again, freaking Jock McHale, Peter Daicos.
What? I gave you a player that was at the club literally last season.
That was lousy.
A player that was at the club last season. And I never compared him to Josh Kennedy. This is just stuff that I read in his draft profile.
Who compared him to Josh Kennedy? He's like half the size of Josh Kennedy. I'm thinking of some monster. That's why I brought up Brandon Sire. I'm thinking of guys like that. I think I'm betting it bigger than Jack Bytel, isn't it?
All right, Mick. Let's just get a quick tip. What?
2 points, wasn't it?
2 points. So you've now moved to, what have you fucking moved to? 14? I'll work it out. It's too late. I'll work it out another day what you've moved up to, but you're not swinging 6s though.
The guy played 7 games. Give us
last year. You literally gave him Julian Rowe medal votes last year. You can't act like this was difficult.
Do you see I'm going to cricket for just a second.
Oh, Michael, it's too late.
Shut up. Now listen. The England-India test match at the moment. So England, Ben Stokes gone to India and said, listen, let's just shake hands and have a draw, because it's obviously going to be a draw. They've got 2 guys who are 80 at the time, in the 80s. One had never made a test century. India said, no, we want to get these guys their hundreds. And England are fuming over it.
Yeah, England are absolute fucking stains, mate. They are. Everyone knows that.
I mean,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
All right, tips for the Brisbane game. Most important game, home and away game since the 2022 round 23 game.
okay, I said earlier on, I don't know, and I don't know.
Tip.
So, that's my tip. Is I don't know. You tell us what you think, because I really don't know.
Pies by 7.
Right. Okay, fair enough.
Thank you, Michael, for your insight there.
I can only be honest, and I don't know the answer.
All right, we're wrapping it up. I don't care if you've got anything else you want to talk about. That's it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you want to follow our socials, you can find us on X at Into the Woods Pod and on Instagram at Into the Woods Pod 10. Thanks for listening. We look forward to doing it again next week. See ya.